This is episode number 16 of the Feed Me, Fuel Me podcast with our guest, Caleb Lepisto. Welcome to the Feed Me, Fuel Me podcast. My name is Jeff Thornton, alongside my co-host, Michael Anders. Each week, we bring you an inspiring person or message related to our 4 pillars of success: manifestation, business, fitness, and nutrition. Thank you for allowing us to join you on your journey. Now let's get started.
What's good? Welcome to Feed Me, Fuel Me. Today we've got a special guest, one of the original PHX disciples, Caleb Lepisto, officially now of Lepisto Training Systems. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you for bringing me on, guys. It's awesome.
Yeah, right man. Nice to have you.
As per usual, Mike Anders here with Jeff Thornton, and today we're going to touch on, we're going to elaborate a little bit more on a topic that we've covered before, but more so from the process of it all and how what the importance of an apprenticeship process actually is and how it facilitates follow-on success and kind of broadens your scope of what you look for in mentorship moving forward as your goals and your vision evolve. So first and foremost, let's let the audience get to know Caleb here. Let's tell us a little bit about yourself and what kind of, just give us your story, man.
So growing up, small town Illinois, I always give that introduction. But coming out of Illinois, played 2 years of collegiate basketball, and after that, I figured it was just time to get out of Illinois. Kind of wanted something new, tired of being on the farm, just time for something else. Came out here with one of my buddies. He was either here or San Diego. We both got into Arizona State, and so after that, just started going to the exercise and wellness program. Going through classes, doing my coursework, things like that. Ended up meeting Michael in one of the last classes that I took at ASU. It was a sports and conditioning class. Actually, one of the better classes we had. A lot of performance work in there, not so much health and wellness stuff. And then ended up getting an internship at PHX with Michael. Walked up to him one day after class out of the blue.
Stalked me. That's what you did.
Well, I walked up. It's funny. I walked up and I'm like, Michael, you look back and you're like, who the hell is this kid? And then, asked him for an internship, went in, interviewed, became the first intern at PHX, put in my time with that, put in a lot of time with Michael, coaching and just learning and going through the process, making mistakes. And after a couple of years of that, I put together my own little LLC for personal training, Lepisto Training Systems. So now I'm trying to develop that while I'm still coaching at the gym, just taking care of the members and helping build the community.
Right on, man. Right on. What do you feel, how much value do you think, if you were to put education and experience on a scale, do you feel like professionally you were balanced coming out of school, or were you lopsided one way or the other?
Coming out of school, definitely more lopsided. You have more theory, more just book smarts, and then you get thrown into the real world and you're like, oh man, I still got a lot to learn. There's a lot of pieces. Just, one of the important pieces is reading people and being able to interact one-on-one, and that's not a lot of stuff that you get in school.
Right.
So I'll definitely say a little lopsided.
That's crazy. Excuse me. How do you feel now with when you started your business? Because I came in the PHX, I think, was it Caleb? You were one of the first coaches I actually trained with, man. I've seen you evolve. I mean, your coach has always been fantastic. But even owning your own business, how has it changed your perspective on being more of like the intern or just the employee to actually running your own personal brand and consulting outside of your business? How's that helped you?
A lot of things. Just being firm when running your own business. That was one thing that I've had to learn. Instead of being like, we can take care of this. I'll give you this price, things like that. If you eventually you got to pay some bills. You got to pay some rent. You get a little hungry, things like that. Okay, hey, this is my price. This is what it costs to work with me. If we want to do this thing for real, there's going to be a timetable. There's going to be goals set. There's expectations. We're not just in this thing to have fun and hang out for an hour. We're here to train.
Yeah, that's true. How do you set your price coming out? Like, especially within an industry where it's variable, based on experience and stuff. How did you manage to to set that point to where you're like, this is my point. This is how much I cost, and if you want to work for me or work with me, this is how much you have to pay. And because I just think it's trying to find that fine line sometimes.
Definitely.
How do you navigate through those waters, or how are you still navigating through those waters?
Well, still navigating through those waters, but you kind of get to a point where you're like, I don't want to train everybody. I don't have the time of the day to train everybody, and not everybody's as motivated. And so you find a price that works, that's going to get people who are serious about this, who are saying, I'm paying for this. We're going to do some things.
Right.
If I charged X amount of dollars, hey, we're going to hop in a training session. Hey, man, it was really fun. Cool. Yeah, but I'm not getting any results. Like, that's not what I'm looking for. You want people who have that motivation, who say, okay, I am paying this person for this product. Let's get something out of it.
Right.
So it's definitely, it took some time, but, experimentation, you kind of figure it out after a while.
That's nice. And what do you typically look for when it comes to assessing a client? Because I know, like you said, you don't want to hire everybody. You don't want to be that, the, what do you call, shop as you go, the Walmart trainer. You can get them anywhere. Basically raising your value so high to where you get your exact client. What's that look like to you in your business?
So it's not necessarily, NFL players or people who are, gifted athletically that are going to be extremely easy to put through different movements. I'm looking for the person who is internally motivated. They're not just, if I ask them the question, what motivated you to get into this, and they don't have a good answer for me, that's usually a pretty good indication right off the bat if we're going to fit. I'm looking for the people who are like, I have a goal, I have a timeline, I'm doing this for XYZ reasons. Now let's start working towards those. How can you help me get to these goals? And then from there, we can put together a project, put together a plan, and say, this is what we're going towards. This is how long it's going to take.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, it's important that you scout those prospective clients and take that process really serious, because as you found early on in your career, as you've gone out there on your own, there's a lot of shoppers out there, and it's really easy in the beginning of your career to cheapen your value as you build your business, and ultimately what you find is while you're on a mission to do the best job that you can, it's a very reciprocal relationship in that you have to be able to hold your clients accountable, and that's a lot of where your price point comes from the standpoint that you're going to put in the work for them, and devote 100% attention to their goals because they're indeed paying you. But that price point is what gives them a little more intrinsic motivation, in terms of the value of your service. Like, fuck, I'm paying a lot of money.
Exactly.
And you kind of draw that line in the sand where if your client isn't going to fulfill their obligation to the process, it's no longer worth their money just as much as it isn't worth your time. And you really have to drive home that point that you want it to be mutually beneficial from the standpoint that they get what they pay for, and it's worth all the time and effort that you're going to put into them. And I think that's as I've seen you evolve, that's one of the biggest things that you've had to overcome, is finding that, making that justifiable in your mind.
Definitely.
That's interesting. And from a perspective of, because I came in with the group classes on the CrossFit classes I'm speaking of, how different is it for you as a trainer to work with the group class, because you're very good at this, where you can have a large class of, I don't know, 15 or more people or so to speak, and you can break it down to where it's simple, where from the basic level somebody understands it to even like the most advanced lifter, they can get what they need in a workout. How do you transform from working with like a group class where how do you tailor their workouts compared to working with just a single individual?
So if I'm going with a single individual, that's where I can really start to pick apart and dial in movements and make sure that, we're getting what we're looking for here. With a group class, you know, it's a lot of management going around, making sure that everybody's where they need to be. Movements look good. Things are crisp. We're moving. Time management is good. With that single person, you know, if we need to spend 30 minutes on one thing, like we're going to spend 30 minutes on this one thing. If we need to spend 3 weeks on developing your squat, like guess what? We're developing your squat for 3 weeks. It's not just going to be, you know, oh, well, this is good for now. Like we're going to get this right because you and me are working towards this goal. So that's say there's definitely, it's different. I mean, I love doing both, so I can't say one or the other is my favorite, but it's a little bit different.
Yeah, because that's the reason why I ask. Because I've gone to several gyms with my traveling and stuff, and as I've gone to these different areas, like you see, because I feel like you guys are the best coaches around, not a biased opinion or anything, but just from working with the coaches at CrossFit, PHX, and yourself specifically, I've gone to other boxes around the country, and then it's like you just walk in, they put the wad up on the board, and it's like, go at it, you know, and you sit there like, okay, what a different movement, like, you know, like some type of upright row or something. Like, hey, how do you perform this movement efficiently? And they deal with such a large class, and they're sort of just like, hey, just do this and this, and it's like, roll with it, put the 135 on and let's go. But I found the way that you've been able to coach, it's extremely helpful because, you know, it's sort of like that methodology when you start that P90X program. You give different ways to get the movement done. If somebody can't do a pull-up, hey, adjust, do it a scaled version of this. If they can't do that scale the scale version. And I just find that just incredible because I don't think a lot of people have those skills or they pay enough attention to what their class or their clients' needs are, you know. So I applaud you for that, man. I think that's a fantastic skill to have, and I'm just
well, thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, I've really seen that.
That's the fun stuff, though. Just getting to know your athletes, and you know, as you go through classes and things like that, having progressions and regressions for each movement, and being able to tailor it to people. Like yesterday was a really good example. We had a longer workout. The intensity was a little bit lower, but we had technical movements within each one of those minutes. So as we went through, you could scale your athletes accordingly. And if they're crushing it on those first couple minutes, all right, we're going to switch it here. Now you're doing this instead. If you're doing this, okay, maybe we need to bring it down a little bit. And that's where the art comes in, and that's the fun stuff.
Right. And I like what you said, the art comes in, because it truly is an art to be able to look at somebody or look at a class and judge it dynamically on the spot. You know, it's never a static environment. And that's what's so impressive to me with people like yourself, like Coach or Durs or whatever, Thatcher. You guys just have that ability to adjust to that person's, you know, capabilities at a certain point in time and make those little adjustments that help so much. So I think it's just crazy. And how'd you pick up that skill? Is it something that you picked up through just working with people, or is it sort of innate to you?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think just over time you can read your classes a little bit better. When you know you first start off, there's a lot going on. You're like, holy cow, I got to account for 10, 15, 20 people, and you know, make sure everybody's safe, make sure we're on time, and then you get a little bit more comfortable, and you know your athletes better, and you know where they're at, and when they come up to you, you already have an idea of where they're going to be at, what they need to do for the day. So just time with your athletes and getting to know people.
Nice.
Building those relationships.
Just practice pretty much at that point.
Yep.
That's nice.
As you went through your apprenticeship at PHX, what were some of the tell us about some of the aha moments you had coming into it, like things that you didn't see coming, obstacles that you had to overcome. Like, what were some of the groundbreaking moments for you as a coach, not so much as an athlete?
As a coach, I mean, I've had a lot of them. I was just talking to one of our interns currently about it, and I was like, so the biggest thing in our profession is building relationships with people. You know, you have to have the technical experience. You need to know what you're doing to keep them safe. But the biggest thing is you got to build that relationship, that trust with people, so that, you know, they know that you have their back when you're training them. That was a big one for me. You know, you coming out of school, you're like, oh, I got to just teach people how to squat and how to bench and how to row and how to run. And there's more to it than that, you know. Another one, actually, just recently that it was kind of an obvious one, but just driving in my car thinking about stuff, and you know, I'm listening to all these guys about providing value. You know, how do you provide more value to the people that you're working with? And like out of the blue, it's like, oh, become a better coach. It's like wow, that was easy. So, making sure that you're going back and that you're staying on top of your continuing ed and you're always finding new stuff. And especially with CrossFit, finding different ways to scale movements that are appropriate to the population that you're working with. So, okay, we've been working this for a while. Now let's go work over here. And they're like, wow, that was a lot of fun. I really like that. I feel the transfer. And that's where you get those aha moments and you're like, okay, I need to do more of this. This is good stuff right here.
Nice. And speaking on continuing ed, or what's the best way that you learn? Is it through, do you listen to a lot of like podcasts? Do you read books? What's your best way of like picking up the information?
Well, Michael's probably going to laugh at this one, but it's got to be podcasts. I used to come into the office.
I want to tell that story.
I used to come into the office every day. I was listening to this podcast. But I love podcasts, man. Driving in the car, that's the best time for me, just being able to listen to stuff. And I got a couple guys right now who put out really, really good stuff. One guy over at iFast in Indianapolis just puts out awesome stuff. I love Andy Frisella, Gary V, any of those guys. You can dive into it. And for me, reading, like, I can read books and I stay on top of it, but I find myself like I was telling the guys earlier today, I have a bookmark in 6 different books, so I'll read this for a little bit. Okay, now I need to switch a little bit. I get that book ADD.
That makes sense.
Caleb was so funny, man, because I'll never forget when he started with us, and this is back in the day when I was coaching a ton of classes, and particularly the noon class. He comes in to shadow and do the intern thing, and I start to warm up, and I look over my shoulder, and I told him in the very beginning, I was like, I need you to ride my hip pocket, ask questions on the spot, as they come to you, so you can, I want to make this as interactive as possible for you. And I look over my shoulder, and he's nowhere to be found. I stop the class, and I'm like, hey, what are you learning in the office? He's like, nothing. I was like, I suggest you get your ass out here and start learning some shit. And that was kind of the inset, like the light bulb needed to be turned on for him at that point. And from then on, Caleb actually introduced me to Barbell Shrugged, and a lot of our in-depth apprentice mentor moments were a byproduct of stuff that he had learned or heard on a podcast. And he's like, well, they were interviewing Rich Froning or Jason Khalipa or some other big names, and Mike Bergner, and he said this, that, and the other thing. What do you think about this philosophy, this methodology, this technique, blah 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 blah? And that's how you really get into the facilitation of education, is being able to ask questions and get feedback based on some of the thoughts and preconceived notions that you get from based on new information. And without that, you're just kind of like taking things in, and then you're relying on trial and error to find out if it's of value or how much worth that information actually has. And when you're fortunate enough, as I've been in my professional career, and as I'm now actively passing down to our interns, it's extremely important to have that that person, to having access to that person that has more experience and more time in the game, to just that's readily available to ask those questions and get that feedback, and find out if anything that you're thinking about implementing is bullshit, or if it's like, oh, that's a really good idea, take that and run with it, because there's so much information out there. And we were talking a couple of weeks ago about all the false prophets, I call them, on social media. All these people that look good, and they might even be amazing athletes, but when they start spitting this quote unquote knowledge, and it's like, that shit doesn't make any sense for anybody except the person doing it. They take it's real easy to fall into the trap of somebody who's amazing at one thing, and it works for them, based on their experience and their physical capabilities, but there's absolutely no way you could take that and implement it with the general population. And without that buffer, a mentor, it's really easy when you're young in the game to take that and put somebody through a protocol that they have no business doing, and the next thing you know, your reputation is damaged forever. Don't work with that guy. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He pushes too hard. He's not in tune with what I want, my goals, and blah 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 blah. And we hear it all the time. When people drop into the box, and either I work with them or Caleb works with them, and he's like, "Can you believe this person didn't know how to do blah blah blah? Like, what are they doing over there?" And like that's like, to me as a gym owner, that's where the value of our apprenticeship process really comes to light, because as I travel and I go see other gyms and stuff, and it's just like people are only programming based on what they've done in the past, and they haven't, you can tell they haven't taken the time to expand their knowledge base and implement more, I wouldn't even say sophisticated program, but just more dialed in compartmentalization. It's still too random, in my opinion. And, where I find the most satisfaction in the process is when people come up to me, uh, uh, when their schedule doesn't work out and they show up at that 5 a.m. class and I'm coaching, and they're like, man, I just want to tell you how awesome Caleb is. Because we have so many people at the gym that have been there since you were an intern and watched you evolve as a coach. And now you got Lepisto training systems off the ground. And like, it's one thing for me to see your evolution as a coach, as a professional, but it's a whole nother deal for our members, our clients, our athletes to recognize you for your evolution. And I commend you for that, because that speaks to your commitment to your professional growth and the process of not only becoming a better athlete, a better CrossFitter, but more importantly, becoming the best coach you can possibly be. And that, as all these, we've had a slew of interns come through after you, is a rarity. And this is a very cutthroat industry, as you found out as you've gone out there on your own, and it's very sink or swim. And if you're not equipped, with both education and experience, it's easy to drown.
Definitely.
You know.
I just, I'm really happy that the way the internship has worked out and how, we're able to watch these kids develop a little bit more now. And I'm so thankful for Michael, just being a mentor for me coming up, because like he was saying, it gives you an opportunity to make some mistakes and also ask questions from someone who has, who's got more reps in than you, has a lot more time in the game. Just like he's saying, you see these things on Instagram and you're like, oh man, that's cool. People come up to you and they're like, you want to try this workout? And I'm like, no, never. Like, not in a million years are we doing that. Well, why not? Like, I'll write you up something. It's cool. It's going to be better anyways. And then just going from there. So the mentorship, it's needed. It's definitely needed. Coming out of school, like I said, you have a lot of book smarts, but you need that experience. And then getting a mentor is going to help give you that experience, but also give you some room to fail, where you can test the waters a little bit, but not dive off the deep end and end up drowning.
That's right. And what's interesting about like this case study between you two is that you have that mentor-mentee relationship. And I've noticed anything in big business or, just any type of business, what really drives the relationship, and like Michael was saying, is that the mentee drives the relationship, because it's not the mentor's job to come to the mentee and say, hey, what do you want to learn today? And in this case, Caleb always came to Durs and said, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about X, Y, and Z? So he was driving the relationship. And I think that's the important part when you do search and try to find your mentor. When you go into at somebody, if I need that mentorship, I have to be able to have the topics to drive that conversation and create the knowledge that I want to learn. And that seems like exactly what you did. You looked at your podcast, you read books, then you fed off of Durs and said, hey, man, with your experience, what do you think about this? And you guys were able to bounce off one another. He didn't only teach you, you taught him as well, and expanding each other's horizons. So I think that's the power of mentorship. And, I mean, I think if you're coming as a mentee, never come be always at that state where you're going to provide value as well to the mentor. Like, don't ever think you're the low man on the totem pole, because that relationship, it's equal. It's a 50-50% partnership, just like marriage or anything. You have to work together to continue to grow and better one another. So I think that's important. And you see it every day between your guys' relationship. And I think that's just something I want to point out, just for the listeners, because I mean, you can see these guys, they've worked so well together, and they continue to push each other to drive, and then continue to grow every single day and every year, you know? So I applaud you both for that.
I appreciate it, man. You know, as a mentor, you know, that's probably the heaviest weighted quality I look for in our apprentices. And you know, we get a lot of applications, and you know, I turn a lot of them down because when I sit down to interview them, you know, it's one thing to fulfill a graduation requirement. It's a whole nother deal to actually get something out of the process. And you know, if we sit down in our initial interview and you have no idea after 4 years of education, like you're not even leaning one way or the other, because there's a ton of places you can go in the health and wellness space, not just fitness specifically. But if you're not leaning one way or the other, it's really difficult for me to guide you. You know, when I sit down, you know, like when I met with Caleb for the very first time, I was like, where do you want to go with this thing? You know, do you just want to be a good coach? I can show you everything you need to know to make sure that people have safe, fun workouts. If you want to learn the business, I can teach you that too. And that's a lot more comprehensive, and, you know, a lot more time is going to be required of you, because we're going to be out on the floor and we're going to be back in the office, you know. And then, you know, if you're, you know, pre-med looking to go to PT school or something like that, that's not something that I specialize in. So, you know, I'll direct you to another internship. We now have Matt Zanis on board, so we can actually provide mentorship for people that are interested in physical therapy and whatnot. So we now offer that. But, you know, there's an evolution, and when you're looking for a mentor, you know, the best mentorship you could ever get is from somebody who's doing what you want to do. Because it's the only way that my process makes sense to Caleb, because eventually, you know, he wants to grow into a business owner in the fitness space. It may not look like CrossFit PHX for him, but the building blocks, the system implementation, the automation that goes into making my business successful, those are all tools that he'll be able to utilize and individualize for his business model, you know. But if that's not where your genuine interest lies, the mentorship process will not have the dramatic effect that it had for him had he worked with somebody else. And you know, when I see promise in an apprentice, I'm going to want to spend as much time with them as possible and share with them as much knowledge as I can. But that energy needs to be reciprocated. Like, you need to come to the table with questions and be doing investigative research on your own. And we use these big terms, investigative research and homework and blah, 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 blah. And, you know, you need to be doing your part outside of the gym. It's all really easy because you should be interested. Like, it shouldn't be fucking work. And when I sit down with these kids and I'm like, look, you know, there's a lot of man hours to go into getting to this point. You know, it's my job as a mentor to shed some light on the road ahead. But at the same time, I'm just giving you the reality of the situation. I'm not trying to scare you off. And if you're afraid of hard work, this shit ain't for you. You know, if you don't want to work on yourself so that you're a better people person, you know, it's really interesting when we get these kids that are like, you know, really, really intelligent from a book standpoint, and they're extremely lacking in people skills. Like, that is a very difficult trait to teach and to have somebody become comfortable with, you know. Or the part that blows my mind the most is people that want to get into this deal but don't live the life. You know, I'm not saying you got to be competing to go to the games or anything like that, but shit, you know, if you want to be seen as a professional in this industry, it's probably a good idea that you train, you know, and train in the modality that you coach. Not saying that you got to be awesome at it. That's not the point. But I just posted the other day, as a coach, it's important that you participate in your prescription so you know what your people are going through. Otherwise, there's that disconnect, and now you fall into that terrible place where the easiest thing to do is to put together the most dreadful workouts ever that make absolutely no fucking sense. You know, so like when Caleb comes to the table, and you know, in the very beginning, I used to have him write all kinds of workouts and warm-ups and stuff, and in the beginning, he'd have this amazing warm up, and then I'd see the workout, and the warm up wouldn't match anything that he was doing in the workout, or vice versa. And so that, like, you know, Caleb was saying, you know, that the importance of one of the biggest importance of having a solid mentor when you're in that apprentice space is having enough rope to hang yourself and make mistakes and fail with guidance so that you can learn and apply the lessons from those mistakes immediately and put those fixes into practice as fast as possible. And, you know, when you're out there flying by the seat of your pants, just trying to figure it out via podcasts, and, you know, you're not getting any real-time feedback as to how you're performing, you're making that climb to success so much steeper than it has to be. You know,
That's true, man. And from a perspective of scheduling in your life, like, I think it's interesting how people balance their schedules. Some guys, I remember when I was working in this company, SAP, I always go back to it. I had a mentor there, and I'm known for burning the clock, man. I work, you know, long hours and don't sleep, whatever. That's just my deal. That's just my deal. I can do
make
it.
time for
You know?
salsa.
Yeah, you know, that's just my deal, you know. But then this guy, he was like, I remember I met him at a conference, and I said, and he's my mentor, and he's like, I was like, yeah, man, just working long hours. You know how that goes, right? And he just looked at me and said, no, I don't. I was just like, okay, like, F you then, dog. You know, he's like, you know what somebody taught me a long time ago? He's like, you work 8 hours, you play 8 hours, and you sleep 8 hours. And like, when he said that to me, I was like, okay, that's cool. That shit don't work for me, dog. Like, for real, like for me, like, people put things in like a cut and paste template of how you're supposed to live, you know, because to me, when I'm working, I'm playing at the same time, you know, and so those two are just combined activities for me. Then you go to the gym, and that's all play, you know what I mean? Just mess around, have fun, do what you got to do. But for you, what's your typical day look like? How do you break it up? What's your sleep schedule? And I mean, what's it look like? I know it can vary day to day, but what's your typical day look like for you?
Typical day. So usually start the morning about 5 o'clock, roll out of bed. My dog's still sleeping on the bed, looking at me like, Dad, why the hell are you up this early? You know, grab a quick breakfast, get to the gym by 6, then coach 6, 7:30. And then in between there and after class, you know, one thing that I actually listened to from a podcast by Ben Bergeron was, you know, talking about hanging out with your members a little bit after class. You know, as soon as that final clock dings, you know, it's not like you're just done for the day. Like, you still got to go out there, you know, and talk to your members, get to know them, again, build that relationship. So get home anytime from like 9:30, maybe 10. Some days I'll have a client, so I'll have to shoot up north, do that. Middle of the day is kind of my time to get like life and adult things done, like do some laundry, maybe do some dishes, sleep for half an hour. After that, come back to the gym, 1 to 2 o'clock, anytime in there, train, and then usually coach the rest of the night or fill in classes if I need to. Get home 8:30, go to bed by 9:30.
Nice.
Yeah, so
that's a full day.
Yeah, rinse and repeat, right?
Yeah, shoot, man, that's a long day. And do you find it hard to balance within your schedule? Because I know you're in a relationship now. You have work. I mean, how do you balance all that and find time for your girlfriend, find time for work, and find time for fun? Like, how does that blend into your schedule?
That one's tough. We were actually just talking about this with a member yesterday. You know, I work a weird schedule. Like, there you go, ta-da, you signed up for this. You know, I work when other people aren't working. So, you know, if you work a regular 9-to-5 job or anything throughout the middle of the day, you know, that's the time that I kind of have off. So it's just, you know, you got to find time on the weekends. And then even if it's, you know, going over for half an hour at night, or, hey, I'm going to come spend the night tonight, things like that, little stuff. But it's just work. You got to make it a team, and you got to be like, well, hey, I know our schedules kind of suck, but in a couple days, I can take you out, things like that. We can spend some time together. I know I'll see you at the gym, things like that. So just, it's constantly evolving.
Right. But it's like you said, it's not making excuses. It's just making time.
Exactly. You got to make it a priority.
Right.
You know, I'm in this relationship to be in this relationship, not just to have the Facebook status.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, I'm going to make time for it.
Right. That's interesting because, you know, I think that's pretty powerful too, because knowing the type of effort and work that you put in on a daily basis, and you hear some people say, I don't have time to do that. Instead of shifting, like, we all have the same 24 hours. Instead of saying you don't have time, you just don't make the time to do these things.
Right, exactly.
And what was interesting about you said you make the time, even if it's as little as half an hour or spending a night, you put in the effort to get things done. And I think you can see it translate from how you handle business, how you run your classes in the CrossFit, and how you're transitioning as a boyfriend and an entrepreneur. I think it's amazing. But you can see every little building block that you've done in your life, it just transitions to other areas. And that's what I think it's key, because you can tell the regimen that you work off is systematic at this point, you know? And you're able to build things in or blend it in. To me, it looks like seamlessly. You know, I know it's not seamless from the outside looking in, but I think you handle that very well, and I applaud you for that, man. That's really awesome. But
thank you, Jeff.
I think that's what creates success in a lot of business, or in an individual. You're spending the time with your members, making time for yourself, and making time, you know, just for everything around you. So that's a tough thing to balance, you know. But I think it's important. It's really important, and it's through, I think, the journey that you've taken with where you started, you know, Midwest, moving out to Arizona, linking up with, you know, entrepreneurs and mentors. You've been able to craft the life that you wanted, and you're continuing to do it. So I just think that's pretty awesome, man.
Well, I'll throw a little bit of love back to my mom, because she can balance everything. And so, you know, growing up, you're like, I would have been late. Like, I don't know how you put it all in. Like, you still find time to come to my games. You're working a full-time job. You got my brother. Like, I don't know how you're doing all this. You're handling my dad. And so, like, whenever, you know, I have a busy day and stuff like that, I kind of think back, like, hey, what would mom do? Okay, she would be a gangster and she'd just handle it, you know?
Right.
So, you know, that's what I sit back on. And then it's nice because I can always, you know, call her up and be like, oh, my God, you won't believe the week I just had. So she's a base support. Big surprise, I'm a mama's boy.
It's never a bad thing right there.
Is there anything that comes from that early life farm experience that plays into how you do things now?
Hard work. So on the farm, it wasn't weird to work 70 hours. You know, you'd be there at 7, you get done at 5, you have half an hour, maybe an hour for lunch if the grandma brought something down. But for the rest of the day, you're working. Like, there is literally always something to do. You know, you're getting ready to get done for the day, and my boss would be like, oh, we still got this to do. You know, hey, can you go do this for me? Can you go weed whack rocks? And you're like, yep, I'll get it done, you know. And so there was always stuff to do. So just working hard was nothing new for me. You know, before I even drove, I remember my mom being like, if you want a car, you better get a job. I'm like, well, Mom, I don't have a car to get to the job. And she's like, I'll drive you there. And then, you know, growing up, we'd throw the lawnmowers in the back of the van, and we'd go mow my grandma's yard. Then we go over to my great grandma's yard and we'd mow. And, you know, that's a full day of mowing. And so just hard work, man. It's never been nothing new for me. So it's something to live by there.
And this guy has amazing dance skills. I'm going to tell you. You want to think, you look at Caleb like, okay, You put on some Lil Wayne, this boy. I'm saying, so don't challenge him to a hip hop dance competition because
I've seen the pictures back in the day. Caleb used to roll.
You
He
can
used to
roll, man.
hard, man.
That's that hard work.
What I've enjoyed the most as I've watched you evolve as not only a professional, but even more so a man is the part about our relationship in the mentor apprentice mentee capacity that I've enjoyed the most is all the stuff that doesn't have to do with business. And it's one of those things that I've experienced from the bottom looking up as I enjoy, from the mentor looking down, is being able to tap into life's quandaries, right? So it's while you go into it wanting to learn as much as you can about the business and the profession and coaching and being the best professional that you can. There's a lot of moments that we've had with regards to relationships and life choices and you know where to invest time, energy, and money that are completely outside of the original intent of our relationship, and being able to uh, get guidance. I mean, I feel like that's an awesome byproduct of our relationship that you don't really get into the deal expecting. And how has that played out for you?
So I guess the easiest way to explain it is I got a lot of big brothers. I have one blood brother, he's a younger brother, he's 7 years apart, but I got a lot of big brothers who look out for me and just give me some guidance. Like you're saying here, you come into this thinking, okay, I'm going to learn fitness, I'm going to learn business, but then the relationship develops and you get to a point where you're like, he's told me a lot of stories. Okay, he might know a thing or two about what to do here. So like, let's give it a shot. Let's throw it out there. And then you get some guidance on that, and you're like, okay, wow, that worked really well. Let's go back to him for that next issue I got. Okay, and it's something you don't expect. But then it just ends up happening. It kind of happens organically. You match up really well with the person, and it just rolls from there. I don't know how else to explain it other than it's a deep relationship. It's like you have a big brother.
And as you continue this evolution, what are some of the qualities that you look for in mentors now?
So in mentors now, a lot of people are willing to, tell you things and offer their advice. I think I'd still be looking for the same things though. I learn the best by doing it. So giving me a little bit of room to obviously fail and then if need be correct the course from there. So I think that would be the biggest thing. Just let me have the opportunity. If I mess up, let me know. Let me know if it sucks. But if I mess up, guide me from there. If you just spit a bunch of book knowledge at me, I'm going to be like, cool, man. Yeah, I know you know more than me. That's why I'm coming to you. Like, I need a little bit more than that.
Right on, some meat on the bone. Like Bruce Arians says, he's like, I love you as a man, but if your football sucks, I'm gonna let you know.
Yeah,
I love that line. I love it.
I like that.
I can't speak enough about how much you've evolved and what a genuine pleasure it's been to be a part of that process with you. And I would say to anybody listening to this podcast, if you don't have somebody in your life right now that embodies your idea of success, it's never too late, and you just have to be open to those individuals, because they come in and out of your life all the time, whether you know it or not. You just have to be open and actively seeking. None of this would have happened had Caleb not stopped me on the sidewalk after class that one day. So being proactive with what you want in life and finding people, being in tune and aware of the people that are, chasing their star and doing the things that you see yourself accomplishing one day. There's absolutely no reason to reinvent the wheel, so to speak. And mentors are always out there and willing to invest the time and energy in people on the come up, so to speak. But the only way it works is if you're willing to devote the same, if not more, time and energy to your own development. And that's why I feel you've been so successful up to this point, is because of the time, the effort, and the dedication to the process that plays into your story. And as Lepisto Training System continues to grow, I wish you nothing but the most success with that whole thing, man.
Absolutely.
The sky's the limit for you, brother. And having seen you come from a know nothing college kid to where you're at now, you're gonna do great things, man. You haven't even touched the greatness that's inside of you. So it's exciting to watch.
Well, I appreciate it, and all the everybody who's out there listening, especially guys coming out of college. I hope it doesn't seem like I popped out, I came through, did the internship, and everything has just been smooth sailing. Like, there have definitely been nights where I'm like, what the fuck am I doing, man? Like, is this it? Do I go into something else? Do I just move back home and work on the farm because that was easy? There's definitely your ups and downs, your ebbs and flows. So you got to keep going through it, man. It's all part of the process.
That's the damn truth, man. And so we'll get to closing. We always end with two final questions, but I'll let Durs ask the final question. But how can we support you? Where can we find you on social media, websites? How can the community support you and your vision and what you're working towards?
So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Lepisto Training Systems, Lepisto, no Z in there. So yeah, you can hop on there. I also have a website. I offer a daily blog as well too that has workouts on there that if you guys want to follow, check it out and do some of those and give me some feedback on it. Let me know what you think. That would be awesome.
And what's the website?
LepistoTrainingSystems.com.
Okay.
Keep it simple.
There you
Nice,
go.
nice.
There you go.
And we'll link all those up in the show notes and everything.
Awesome. Thank you.
Get them going.
And then biggest thing, two questions. On a daily basis, what's one thing that you do to feed yourself mentally, spiritually, physically? And what's one thing that you do to fuel yourself mentally, physically, or spiritually?
To feed myself, right now it just goes back to learning. Like, I want to, consistently get better at my craft. There's a lot of people out there who know more than me, but that doesn't mean I'm not trying to catch up as fast as possible. And then to fuel myself takes a little bit of me time. There's nothing like spending some time with my dog, my girlfriend, anything like that. That's kind of my me time. That's what really fuels me. Being able to also disconnect too. Any chance that I get to get out to the country is always fun.
Nice,
There you
man.
go.
I like it.
There you go. Well, hey guys, thanks for joining us and allowing us to be a part of your journey. We really hope that you got something out of today's show, and check us out on iTunes and check out at Feed Me Fuel Me across all social media platforms. And please give us that 5-star rating and let us know where we can facilitate your journey with content. And don't be afraid to in the comment section let us know what you want to hear about next. Caleb, thanks for joining us today, and we'll catch you next time on Feed Me Fuel Me.
Thank you, guys.
And that's a wrap, crew. We really hope you enjoyed this episode with Caleb Lepisto of Lepisto Training Systems. If you want to check out the full show notes and get connected with Caleb and us, go to feedmefuelme.com. Also, be sure to connect with us on social media, including Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, and Twitter at FeedMeFuelMe. We would love to hear from each and every one of you. If you found this episode inspiring in any way, please rate, comment, share, and subscribe so we can continue on this journey together. Also, be sure to share with your friends and family on social media, including Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, and Twitter, or any other social platforms that you use. We really appreciate you spending your time with us today and allowing us to join you on your journey. We would love to hear your feedback on this episode as well as guests and topics for future episodes. To end this episode, we would love to leave you with a quote by Bruce Lee. "A teacher is never the giver of truth. He is a guide, a pointer to the truth that each student must find for himself." Thank you again, and we will catch you on the next episode.